Hey there, welcome back to the Blink Weekly Newsletter, One-on-Ones with Bianca Lager. I'm Bianca Lager, and I share tips on navigating tricky leadership combos and business moves. So let's dive into our question of the week. Question is, what can I do to improve the attitude of someone on my team? I've worked with them for a few years as their manager, and they perform their job well, always have. But over the past year, they have been causing problems with other employees to the point where there's some sort of conflict regularly. One example is that they always play devil's advocate. In every team meeting, this person is just constantly making it a point to disagree, and I could tell it bugs others. I'm getting sick of mediating these issues when someone complains again. I'm at a loss of what to do and feel like a failure as a manager. Thanks for any help. Okay, this is something that comes up probably all too often and has so many layers to it. I mean, one is navigating conflict on your team, mediating those things. Another is having difficult conversations. I think that is such a broad-based skill set to develop as leaders. And for me personally, it's probably one of the most important skill sets that I think leaders need to master. This is a skill that translates across, every aspect of life, honestly, in your personal relationships and parenting, in certainly work, even if you're not a leader and if you're not a manager. You can be on the other end of this conversation and have to be on the receiving end of these conversations. And so kind of understanding ways to approach conflict is something that I've actually talked about quite a bit and have a couple sections of my courses on. I'm just a really big believer in kind of developing skills. It's always situational too, I think, but the big broad stroke of my advice always is to get ahead of it, deal with it face on, and really just look people in the eye or in the Zoom and discuss directly what is going on and get to the undercurrent and the truth and the honesty of what is happening. And we do that in a polite manner, and we do that in a way with respect for the other person, then it actually, is such a powerful way to build trust with each other. And for certainly as a manager or a leader, for your team to really have a lot of faith in you. So let's talk about this particular situation. This particular letter writer is saying, essentially, you can imagine it, right? And we've probably all been there. There's somebody on the team who's just always say, well, I disagree, or what about this, or, well, I don't think so. And playing devil's advocate, but just kind of antagonizing people probably. And I'm going to go ahead and guess that that's not the only example of the things that they do that are pretty not disturbing, but could be disturbing, certainly annoying to the other team members. I'm also imagining here that there's a variety of reactions that are happening, whether it's outright conflict and disagreement or just kind of this like nonverbal cues that this person is picking up on. And, letter writer, I have to commend you for picking up on these things. I think, just understanding that, having a level of emotional intelligence and picking up on these cues that you're seeing from your team. I mean, obviously people are complaining too, right? So it's not completely like you're just doing it all alone. But you obviously are in tune with the emotional undercurrents that are going on your team. And so first and foremost, I highly commend you of that. Some people just have like a natural ability to do that. Other people, it takes really a lot of practice to be more intuitive and to be more really observant of the undercurrents, the nonverbal cues, the way people are communicating without communicating, and to understand and pick up on if there are any tensions there that are getting in the way of the team dynamics. This is not kind of fluff stuff that is, I don't know what, someone said to me in a meeting once, I don't know why we're talking about all this emotional stuff. Oh no, I'm sorry. He said, I don't know why we're talking about all this touchy feely stuff when we could just be talking about the work. Well, let me tell you, the touchy-feely stuff absolutely gets in the way of the work, gets in the way of well-being, and gets in the way of just focusing on the work. I think everybody would want to just work and, whatever, but we're people. We're people who have feelings and are dynamic individuals. And so, addressing tensions or addressing the concerns of other people and having empathy or understanding where they're coming from, it's not just something that you read in the book and put on your checklist as something that you need to do. It's actually something that builds a community of trust with your team that will produce outcomes in terms of productivity and in terms of goal accomplishment. Think about it. Think about some of the best, even, professional athlete teams. There is an energy typically with teams that perform really well and a high level of trust. You do not earn that trust and you do not gain that trust by, brushing things off or not talking about the touchy feely things. No, you are definitely vulnerable with each other. You are open with each other and you have to rely on each other. And so that requires navigating through conflict sometimes. Now, that conflict can escalate or that conflict can certainly get to a point where it's toxic and things need to change. So, you could be a letter writer in that place now very well. You sound pretty exhausted. This person sounds exhausting, frankly. So here's what I suggest. Is first and foremost, when I say, let's approach things and have tough conversations, this is not necessarily in the heat of the moment. And as a matter of fact, I don't recommend it. As a mother of 2 young boys, I have learned that when toddlers have tantrums, there's no real teaching that can go on. There's no real advancement or parenting to some degree that can occur than to guide them to a lesson learned or guide them to a better place. We simply have to survive the tantrum and then, speak about lessons and things that we want to do better when we're all calm. And so when we are calm, when there isn't an actual conflict that you're mediating or something that just happened in a meeting that is particularly difficult, try to find a time period where things are fairly settled. And certainly have one-on-ones with every single person on the team. Now, you probably already do this, right? So use your time wisely to address team dynamics. And that's how you're going to talk about it. There's a script you can use essentially that's something along the lines of, hey, I have been noticing some tension during our meetings. And if you're talking to the particular people involved and people that you actually have noticed things on, you can say, I noticed that when John interrupted you, you got quiet and, I was picking up on some nonverbal communication from you that you looked upset. Do you want to talk about it? Something along those lines is a really great way to open up the conversation and to give somebody the opportunity to discuss their feelings and to let them know that, number one, you're paying attention, okay? You are paying attention. You are observing what is happening in your team, and you are concerned and have care about the way other people's experiences are playing out. And if you don't care about that, you need to care. You need to care because the way their experiences are happening, it's not just their responsibility, it's your responsibility too. The better their experience at work, the better they will perform. Now, I don't mean they're getting lollipops and candies all day and that makes everybody happy. I'm talking about if they are in a situation where they are feeling bullied, if they are feeling uncomfortable, if they feel that tension, it's not going to help them perform well. Your job is to make sure they are performing well. And they cannot do that if there is some difficulty that they're running up against. Your job as a leader, your job as a manager is to support them and help them navigate through challenges that they're facing at work. So you need to care about what their experiences are, and you need to care if there is tension. Now, you don't need to nitpick, and hover over people all day and say, hey, oh, you looked a little upset about that. But there's obviously a pattern here. There's obviously conflict that we're dealing with constantly. And so to talk about it in a during a calm time period when there isn't a specific content or conflict that we are trying to address, to say, I noticed X. Do you want to talk about it? How can I support you? Is there something that I can do that you think would help ease the tension or, get you through these experiences? That is extremely powerful. And I think a lot of times just doing that alone is enough. It's just doing that alone when someone says, no, I know John's he gets grumpy. I get it. It does annoy me in the second, but also he sends me a funny meme later and kind of apologizes and it's fine. So not a big deal, but thank you, and it could be over like that. It could be as simple as that. It could also help nip things in the bud so that that resentment doesn't build. Because when someone's just checking in on you and just being like, are you sure it was okay? You good? And they're like, no, actually, thanks. If you ignore it, if you pretend, and if you basically gaslight these people into thinking it's their problem, it's all in their head, it's not a big deal, you're going to create worse problems. Now, I'm saying this in a broad sense. This letter writer does not seem like the person that is creating worse problems, because they have said, I'm tired, I'm exhausted, I'm mediated. That is another thing to do, right? You have to bring the people in the room together and openly discuss. Now, in that conversation, right, in those one-on-ones, someone might say, yeah, it's really bugging me. John is pissing me off. Like, I can't do my job. This is ridiculous, yada, yada, yada. And open up an entire event session. And yeah, it's time for some counseling, basically, and listen, if you've been a manager for any number of time, you know that you have to play the role as counselor. You can't just call HR. You might not even have an HR, but if you do, they might not really be that good at this. It might not be the right thing to do. And the people on your team just might not feel that comfortable opening up to somebody else on the team. So you could be the mediator. You could call HR and see if there's somebody there. If you have faith in their abilities, you could also ask for a coach. And I really recommend this for particular situations. And I think it's really like a judgment call, and only you know when it's right. And you really know when you've hit your limits of what you have capacity for, or what maybe even the other people in your company have capacity for. It's beneficial sometimes to bring an outside person in who really has no skin in the game, right? There's no politics, power plays. This isn't going to like notes on a file later, right? This is really just about somebody coming in. And you can really frame it up as a productivity coach, somebody who's helping with team building, whatever it is. But if you find these dynamics to be interfering with people's experiences at work, people's performance at work, then an intervention does need to be done. And you probably do need to bring an additional resource into the fold here to help you out. Now, I think that, again, having these individual conversations and making sure you're sort of on top of any kind of resentments that are building is a great first step. Escalating it to bringing in an outside person is something that can be explored, I think, when you have a team that is generally, wanting to move forward, or is there something there to salvage, I guess is what I'm saying, right? Now, if this situation you feel in your gut is too far gone, right? And even the coach, you're just like, I don't know, I don't know. I mean, give it a whirl, but you might need to consider the next phase outside of exhausting all options, which is we need to make some changes. This is the certainly biggest and most drastic thing. Now, I'm not saying this person needs to be fired. They probably don't, but there is something with this team chemistry and team dynamic that the perpetrator here, the person who's creating this bad attitude and everything, they are having some sort of experience that is not, they're not happy. They're not producing what, there's something going on with them. It could be personal things, it could be stuff that they are never going to open up to you about, and that's fine. But there's something going on with them that is not working. And so, not just talking to the people who are, for lack of a better word, being victimized by this, but to the actual person who's creating these behaviors, the conversation is just like, hey, so I noticed, you're interrupting Sally a lot. What's up? What's up? And that's it. And you hear my pause, you hear my silence there. That's on purpose. We're trying to get them to talk to you and tell you what's going on, and it's coming from a place of non-judgment. It's coming from a place of talk to me, but I'm also not going to force you to talk to me, right? I'm here for you, and I want to know what's going on, and if there's something that I can help you with. I think also you do have to make it clear to say, I notice when these behaviors happen that other people on the team react. Do you notice that? Prompting them to take observation of how their actions and their words are affecting the other people around them. And without attacking this person and without telling them your behavior is affecting the other people around you, nobody wants to be lectured like that. But for you to simply prompt and ask, like, are you noticing this? Are you picking up on this? They generally could be like, no, I don't think so. I think everyone's fine. I think you're making too big of a deal out of this. That could be the reaction, and the conversation can definitely be like, okay, well, there definitely is something, going on here. And I just want you to know that I'm taking notes on it. And I want you to know that because I want to make sure that your experience here is a good one too. I'm coming from a place of making sure that you're good and everything's okay. So do me a favor and just sort of come into the next meeting with a bit of self-awareness. And when you are speaking, take note of how other people are reacting to that. And we can talk about it later and see what you think, and kind of essentially encourage them to do an audit of themselves. You've probably, this particular letter writer sounds like they've tried to mediate things one-on-one with particular people. And again, if you're just not getting anywhere with that, then it's time to, go to an outside person or think about team changes. Is there a different team this person can transfer to? Is there any team dynamic changes that can be adjusted? Is there, meetings that can be changed, projects that can be reassigned? Like, how can we work with what we have here and balance the tension so that things can operate more smoothly? Of course, the most extreme version of this is that a termination or something drastic needs to happen. But honestly, it takes quite a bit for a company to kind of not just justify that, but obviously lose a valued team member who's been working for a few years. So I'm really hopeful for you. I think that you're not a failure as a manager at all. I think that the fact that you've tried and you've sort of been exhausting yourself is absolutely admirable, but you need help. Hopefully these scripts can help you have some better conversations. But like I said, seek it, somewhere else too. Call in the troops, wave your right flag and be like, hey guys, I'm kind of at a loss here. I need some intervention and I need some help, and I need an outside coach to help us navigate through these difficult conversations. So good luck. Keep us updated. I would love to kind of hear an update of how this is playing out. I really hope that maybe there's just some temporary tension, that this person is going through something and their bit of attitude resolves, or there's some dynamic that can be worked out, because it sounds like there's something good here. But sometimes we go through phases that are less than ideal. That being said, too, like I've said, your job is to navigate people through getting a good performance out of them and getting a good experience from them at work. So if we're not having good experiences, don't be afraid to make the changes that you need to make. All right, that is it for me. Again, thank you, everybody. Blink Weekly Newsletter, one-on-ones with Bianca Lager. I'll see you next week.